KGW meteorologist Joe Ranieri here, along with meteorologist Chris McGinnis. And again, we are focusing on that heat that is just right around the corner. And this is no joke. This could be 3-4 days with temperatures 100 degrees or hotter.
Or hotter, yeah. And that's why we are calling this a weather impact alert situation for the KGW News viewing area. So here is the situation as we get into Friday and beyond. That's when the heat really cranks up. However, the Weather Service has issued an excessive heat warning effective noon on Thursday, and that will run through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday evening. There's a look at our 7-day forecast, and the alert days that we're actually adding Monday to that, and that's kind of a recent add, Joe. We've kind of bumped that Monday temperature up as we inch possibly closer to 100 degrees on Monday.
And if that's the case, I mean, some locations even for the holiday, on Thursday could go close to 100. So there could be a 5, maybe 6 day stretch of temperatures 100 or hotter in many locations. And a lot of people, they may not have AC. So we're wanting to get the word out now. If you don't have to be outside for very long, do not. And this is not going to be a time where you're going to want to be spending any time, working on the yard, doing construction. Try to get all that done late at night or earlier in the day.
Yeah, these are the days that we are most concerned about, Friday through Sunday. But now we're beginning to wonder about Monday too, as that Monday temperature has kind of flexed up here in the last couple of runs of our models. But in any event, the most significant impacts from this type of heat, of course, dehydration, heat stress, and in the worst cases, heat stroke. And we bring that up, of course, because when we start having days and days and days of hot weather, those that don't have access to cooling are those most at risk.
Now, this isn't the desert Southwest. This is the Pacific Northwest. We might see a couple of days throughout the summer where it's excessive heat and it's unbearable. This is a long stretch. So my point being, Chris, it's going to take some people. We're not going to get acclimated over that 4 or 5 day stretch. It's going to be downright hot. So if you're not used to the heat, again, listen to our advice. Try to stay inside as much as you can and don't spend much more than a couple of hours outdoors, because like Chris was just saying, that's when the heat exhaustion kicks in and dehydration. Make sure you get plenty of fluid. And we're not talking about, soda pop, making sure you get lots of water to drink over the next 4 or 5 day stretch.
So let's go back to that graphic maybe really quickly. As we show you the 7-day forecast there, but here's the overall pattern, right? We've got high pressure that's just kind of baked in literally right on top of us. And that's going to sit there and just kind of flex, if you will. It'll pulse upwards over the weekend, and you can see it's taking up a lot of real estate here. So we're not alone in this hot weather situation. It goes up and down the I-5 corridor from Washington down to California. We're all going to be suffering record and near record heat the next several days. So this is a big area that's going to have significant heat impacts here over the next several days. Let's go ahead and get back to that 7-day forecast. A lot of folks making plans for the 4th of July, of course, Thursday. Thursday is marginal.
That's manageable, mid-90s. Okay, we're used to that. But then we go from mid-90s to 101, 105. And again, some models, like we were talking before we started, could go above 105, maybe 107 to 108 in a few locations.
Yeah, and that's actually, it's just maybe pulling back the curtain a little bit, the secret sauce that goes into making these weather forecasts. Joe and I talk a lot about this behind the scenes, and I reference this on the air once in a while, the national blend of models. It's basically a conglomerate of dozens of different forecast models from Canada, from the United States, from Australia. Here's the crux of it. All those numbers that you see on the left-hand side of your screen, those are various percentages. But what we've been kind of doing here over the last couple of days is riding, the middle of the forecast guidance. And for Friday, the middle of those models is basically projecting 101. And what that tells us is that there's pretty high confidence that that's a good number for Friday. But note, to Joe's point, there are certain models that go a little higher. So you start seeing 104 and 106 in there for Friday. Now we go into Saturday and those numbers get a little higher, the 50th percentile, 103. So our going forecast is riding right along the middle of that forecast guidance. And as we go out to Sunday, you can see, again, some of the higher numbers that are showing there, 108 and 112, 105 being the middle of that envelope. So there is some range there, but generally when you look at these ranges, it's a good idea to kind of look at the 25 and the 75 percentile and say, okay, our highs are probably going to be somewhere between there. So on Sunday, 101 to 108 seems like, at least from this vantage point, that middle range there seems like the most likely outcome from today. Of course, that could change a little bit over the next couple days, but
most models, it's not going to change dramatically where we're going to be seeing a big cool down at all. The other thing, we're talking about the highs, the record-breaking temperatures, basically 95 to 105 over that.
Each one of those days is a new record. if we hit those highs right on, which we think we will, obviously.
And the other thing we want to focus on too, we don't cool off much. Overnight lows in the later part of the week, or I should say in this heat wave, are right around the upper 60s to low 70s. So you might think, well, hey, I don't have AC, I can open up my window. It's not going to cool off much into the overnight hours.
Yeah, our long days also mean that, when we start talking about temperatures that are getting up to near 100 degrees, you're in those high 90s for hours and hours and hours. I mean, we're still getting 15 plus hours of daylight right now, right? So
Absolutely.
it is warm. And to Joe's point also about the warm overnights, it is not common for Portland to not get below 70 degrees at night. I mean, when you start talking about lows in the upper 60s and 70s, those are also record warm overnights. It's one of the blessings about the Northwest that we don't have humidity, right? And so that allows us to cool off at night, but it's going to be so warm that even our normally bearable overnights are going to be much warmer than usual, and in fact, in this case, probably record-setting.
And I think by the end of it, we're talking about a lot of new records being set. I think there's going to be a lot of them. Daytime highs, overnight lows too, potentially. And there's a chance, Chris, we were talking earlier, that we could be rivaling the most days in a row with temperatures are 100 above, which is 5 days in a row set back in, according to the National Weather Service, 1941. That was July 13th to the 17th. That's something we haven't touched on. I mean, the other record
an
was
extended period of triple-digit heat, right?
We've done it 4 days, a couple different times.
Last summer being the most recent, actually, where we got up to 108 degrees one day in the middle of the week in August. Yeah, so 100-degree heat is becoming, we're starting to count those 100-degree days more frequently in the last decade or so.
Yeah, before, like 10 years ago, it might have been 2-3 days, if we're lucky, where we get maybe that kind of heat for a summer and then we cool off. Now it's becoming more common to see 7-8 days throughout a 3-month period with temperatures 100 or above.
So as you make your 4th of July plans, right, and of course, throughout the weekend, holiday weekend, a lot of folks getting away. Where can you cool off? Well, the beach will be cooler. Right. However, the beach is still going to be warm. It's still going to be warm at the beach, but the beach will be the one place it's worth mentioning that is not under that excessive heat or warning or any heat advisory. You go over to Central Oregon. Central Oregon is going to be baking. We've got heat advisories over there, the Columbia Basin, the Columbia Gorge, under an excessive heat warning as well. So basically, the beach is probably the only location to cool off, even in the higher Cascades.
And that's a good point, because typically when we're baking on the west side of the state, up and down the I-5 corridor, we have maybe an east wind that's in play to bring in that heat, and that also impacts the coast. Well, this time around, it's not. That, like you said, that is going to be the one place that if you don't have AC, you need a place to cool off. Come Saturday or Sunday, that is the place to go, because it'd be temperatures in the mid to the upper 70s, maybe low 80s.
And just be aware, though, of course, that water temperatures along the Pacific, they're cold. Stream and river temperatures here locally are still warming up. They're not, they're not at their peak, right. and even when they are at their peak, they're still pretty cold. Chilly. So again, cold water shock is a thing that happens in this type of heat.
Yeah, not to interrupt you or cut you off, but speaking of the water temperatures, we don't see that peak water temperature for another 3-4 weeks. It's usually late July, early part of August, and we're still a few weeks away. So our point being, if you're looking for a cool place to go, don't just jump on into the water, because there's going to be a lot of people that tried to do that, and it could be ending in a bad situation.
And of course, we all know that a lot of the local swimming holes and whatnot are starting to offer life vests, and that's a lot of the guidance that you hear from the safety professionals out there, that if you are going to go taking a dip in the water, wear a life jacket. Yeah, right. I mean, it's just that simple, and a lot of locations are now providing them. So they put them out there for your use. So go ahead and take advantage of that to cool off. And this is going to be our first major heat wave of the year. In the last couple summers, we've been averaging at least 4, maybe 5 different heat waves. Nothing onto this extreme, but again, still, when we're seeing temperatures basically 20, 25 degrees above average for early July, that is concerning. Yeah, we're going into our hottest normally stretch of the year is mid-July through mid-August. So we're right now just entering what could be what could go in the books as a really hot summer. Certainly you string 3, 4, 90-degree or 100-degree days in a row, that in my book qualifies as pretty hot. And so Chris and I have been throwing a lot of stuff out here the last few minutes, but also it's important to remember this is the 4th of July weekend. People are want to be letting off fireworks and celebrating. That's fine, but do it safe. I'm sure there's going to be there are also lots of burn bans. Numerous burn bans now in the county, and who knows if fireworks stands will even be able to stay open because of this excessive heat and excessive watches and warnings. And if you are are out, of course, just be prepared to drink plenty of fluid, take frequent breaks, stay in the shade, and also just remember to check on folks that you may know that don't have access to air conditioning, because once again, the overnights, when it typically would cool off, we're just not going to see that cooling over the next few days. This the high heat kicks in on Friday as we look at the 7-day forecast, but the 4th of July itself looks warm to hot, so that's why we've included that in our weather impact alert days. But Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and now Monday, if you've been kind of following along for the last couple of days, Monday wasn't really in the mix. It is now in the mix as one of those days that could be up near 100 degrees. And we hope at some point then, and we get into the middle of next week, that we will see some cooling, but it is going to take, again, 6-7 days before that arrives.
And you talk about that cooling, we've been talking a little bit here the last few minutes. It doesn't cool off much basically from Saturday night until potentially Monday night. We're going to be seeing overnight lows, upper 60s, low 70s in a few locations as well.
Well, thank you for keeping yourselves posted with the weather impact alert. We will be sure to keep you updated online and, of course, on KGW and on your favorite mobile app, which should be the KGW News app. Thanks for watching.